I like when you take an HDMI cable and plug into the thing and project it
It's
up.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going? Are we going?
We're live here. We're at the Carter family reunion. We have Johnny, 89 and 11 months old,
Right.
and Willie, who's just a young pup.
It's all 83.
We thought we'd ask them some questions and see what they had to say.
Okay, Johnny has a fun story. Go ahead, Johnny.
Okay.
$2 story.
We'll say this is about 1936, and Dad was coming home from downtown, and when you come home and walking, by the way, and so you cut through the public school grounds, and we were just 2 blocks from downtown, so he cut through the public school grounds, and there was a $2 bill on the ground. So he brought the $2 bill home, and then he said, "Someone is missing this." And he went back down to the school grounds, and there come the kid that lost it, crying.
Oh.
Wow. And he returned it to him right there.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? $2. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
back
$2.
then.
I was telling him it would buy 10 loaves of bread and 10 quarts of milk back then.
Wow.
And so a $2 bill was a loss.
And
Yeah.
and could Grandpa have used that $2?
Our family was quite under control.
Were they?
Yeah. They talk, we call it the hungry 30s, but somehow Dad always brought home the bacon. But we ended up, we were delivering groceries on the Stone Service Store delivery rig. It was a rubber-tired flat door rig with 2 horses pulling it. And after school, we would go around town delivering the groceries that they put on the rig for us. And so we got $50 worth of groceries a month for doing the delivery rig. And Dad, because he wouldn't pay taxes, and the government come along and took his truck away from him. Can you imagine what a truck looked like in 1936 to haul coal from Lethbridge to Raymond? He'd get an order for someone for an order of coal. What kind you want? Well, just bring me lump coal. So he'd drive in, and a couple of us kids would go with him, and that was an all-day trip to go to the coal mines in Lethbridge and come out of there in low gear and off to Raymond, and then go dump the coal, give the guy the coal, and it might have been $20 worth. He'd probably get $20. Hard to say what he paid for the coal at the mine. That stuff I didn't really remember.
So he didn't pay taxes. Was that because he didn't get around to it?
He didn't like. If he decided against something, he wouldn't do it. He just didn't like paying taxes, and so the town council wouldn't dare go to him to collect taxes, because he would just kick him off the property, and which he might have done already. But 2 government guys came from Lethbridge and took his truck away from him and destroyed his living. They wouldn't do that today. They'd give you a truck today.
Probably they would.
Yeah, but they.
So he's a pretty complicated guy, your father. Willie, what about him?
You've just gone through some stuff that I've never heard before. I knew nothing about, because I was born in '34, and I knew it was Depression time. And when we moved from Raymond, Dad called Raymond the Slough Water Settlement, and you could drive past the reservoir that we got our water from, and there was a dead body odor coming from it. It was horrible. And when we moved to Calgary, I was so thrilled to be away from the Slough Water Settlement and then over to Nelson, where fruit grew on trees. And I didn't know that thing on the top of a pear was a stem that hangs it from a tree. I didn't know that.
So what, 7 years between you two?
Yeah.
About
Yeah.
7.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Right.
So the trip to the move to Nelson was a big thing, a big positive move.
Moved to Calgary first.
Oh,
And then,
Calgary
and then
first.
we
But-
lost 2 children there.
Yeah, but just Jimmy. Oh, we lost 2.
Yeah, Greg and Lucille.
Lucille. Yeah, yeah, I missed it.
She had 14 children and ended up with 12.
Greg was 4 when he died, and Lucille was 12
Oh yeah,
when she died.
What do
in
you
Calgary.
what do you remember about that?
They had some type of a strep throat that they couldn't deal with back in those days.
Yeah,
And so that would be in about 1940.
yeah.
And so they died even on the way to the hospital.
Yeah.
And no,
Calgary was a great experience for us. We'd go up to Scotchman's Hill and watch the Calgary Stampede from there. Didn't pay anything for it, and we could look down and we could see the Lone Ranger ride in and shoot his gun in the air and make Silver rear up, and then we'd see the chuck wagon races and all that. Without ever going, we were walking distance from Scotchman's Hill. So it was pretty nice. We didn't live there very long, and then we moved over to Nelson. I was in the 1st and 2nd grade in Raymond, then I was in 3rd grade in Calgary, and then 4th grade in Nelson. And when we got to Nelson, with all the lakes and streams and fishing and fruit on the trees, wow, that was so great.
With stems.
With stems, they had stems on them, and that fruit hangs off a branch on that stem.
So you lived behind your grandparents when you lived in, is that Raymond?
Yeah, I do remember that. Do you remember, Johnny? Yeah, you know that.
that we what?
You lived behind your grandparents or sort of adjacent to them.
Oh,
They were on the same property with us.
Dad went downtown when they had to, Uncle Elmer out on the Milk River Ridge said that he can't look after them anymore in their old age. They've got to be closer to doctors and towns and stuff. And so Dad went downtown and bought an old lumber yard office that was vacant, and he moved it onto our property, 100 feet from the house. And so Grandma and Grandpa Carter lived in that with an old chamber under the bed,
Because there's no bathroom.
no bathroom. The toilet was a couple of 100 feet from the house. For us, even that's where the toilet was.
The outhouse.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, old in Nelson, that was really good. Dad built a 3-hole toilet up in Nelson, up behind the house. Can you imagine 3 kids up there doing the toilet at the same time?
That was a Cadillac outhouse, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a biggie.
But actually, there wouldn't be 3 kids. He did that because human waste would pile up at one, and then he wanted to pile it up at a different place. So that's why there were.
Oh,
3.
very good.
3.
Good answer.
Yeah.
So these were Carter grandparents that lived with next to you.
Yeah.
It was Dad's parents.
Dad, your father's parents.
Yeah. They are the ones that come up from Utah in 1902, just to cross the border into what was the Northwest Territories, and stopped right there on the Milk River Ridge between Cardston and Milk River. Milk River was a town on the other end of the Milk River Ridge. And so that's where they stopped and commenced building houses.
Yeah.
Just far enough into Canada.
Yeah,
Was it homestead property that
Yeah.
they were acquiring there?
yeah, homesteading. Yeah. Yeah, they were given a section of land. They didn't have to buy it. Yeah, they could homestead on it and commence plowing and raising grain.
Yeah.
Yeah, raising cattle. Yeah.
And then your mother and father came up in like 1907, I think.
No. Dad was with them. He was 8 years old when he was born in 1895. He was 7 years old when he came up with his parents onto the Milk River Ridge. And Mother came She was 4 years old in 1905 or 6
Right.
when she came up by stagecoach, train and stagecoach.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. By then, imagine those 4 years later, they had they built a rail line up into Alberta. When they first landed up there, it was called the Northwest Territories. Then somehow they come up with the name of Alberta for that province.
But they were there for the homestead, the free land basically, and then
Yeah.
they would
Yeah.
raise cattle or
Yeah.
whatever it took, but they had land.
Yeah.
They got land.
Yeah, they sure did.
And
Yeah.
Dad worked for the Ray Knight Sugar Company, doing $1 breaks on horses. And the way you do that is you take a horse that's never been broke, never been ridden, and you put him in the chute, and Dad would get on him and ride him until he quit bucking, and then he would go back to the chute and get on the next one.
And you got paid $1 a horse for
$1
breaking
a
him?
horse, a $1 break.
Man,
And,
oh man. See, I didn't know that story.
Yeah, and then when he was in Vladivostok, Russia, in the army, the Canadian Army, as a mounted,
They went over as the Royal Northwest Mounted Police,
yeah,
their detachment
During the war?
during the war.
yeah,
World War One.
First World War, yeah.
yeah,
And by the time they crossed the ocean with that detachment, the war was over.
But they stayed for a while.
Yeah,
They were over in Vladivostok and they were unloading horses and let's see, the guys that were watching them unload, they said, "These horses are wild. Why are they sending cavalry these kind of horses?" And Dad said, "Oh, they've all had a $1 break. There's no wild horses there." And they said, "Oh yeah, we'll hold a rodeo and see if you can ride one." And they held a rodeo, and Dad won. You know,
the
And
Russians said that they were better bronco riders than the Canadians. And so away they went with their riding bronc horses, and Dad won the prize, upset the Russians, they locked the gates and left. Yeah, Dad, he was the best bronc rider in southern Alberta.
Was
Yeah,
he really?
good.
Yeah, he was good. He could ride anything.
Yeah, and they had a horse named Fox that he was so smart. He knew what you were saying, he knew what you were doing, and he bucked off Viva. And Dad went over to Fox and he says, "Lay down." And then he got on him with his high heel boots and he was stomping on.
He let him have it for treating
I
his
didn't-
wife that way.
Because he bucked off.
I barely remember Mother getting bucked off, but I remember Bill and Joe and me getting bucked off
Oh yeah, by Fox.
by Fox.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, when you get three on a horse,
yeah,
the guy on the back has got his heels in the flanks.
yeah. And if you're flanking a horse, it's gonna buck.
He's gonna
It doesn't
buck.
matter what else
That's
you're
what they
doing.
do.
I didn't know that. We had where
And
they had a Shetland pony rodeo down in California, and I was flanking the horse. I got bucked off 3 or 4 times off the Shetland pony.
well, and Dad had taught Fox to lay down. He was a smart horse,
Yeah,
and he was what they
Smart.
call half Arabian and half quarter horse. He was a good horse.
yeah,
He was smart and he was a good-looking horse.
yeah.
And so
Sharp.
we'd get the Fox to lay down, then we'd get on, then he'd get up, and then we'd go riding. And we called him Fat back then, Bill.
Bill,
would-
yeah.
He was sitting on, he'd be on the front, and we're riding along. Don't flank him, Joe, don't
Yeah.
flank him. And about then Joe's hanging on, trying to, he got his feet in the flanks, and away goes Fox. And we all got bucked off.
Yeah.
So did Grandma Viva, did she flank him? Is that why she got bucked off?
I don't think
No,
so.
she
I
might
think
have.
I think he did it because he thought she's a new rider. She doesn't know what she's doing.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so Dad really got after Fox. He had those high heel boots all over him for bucking off his girlfriend or his wife, whichever it was. But he was really going after.
You know, it seems to me like your he's a complex man. And
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got a lot of emotion. You loved that man, even as tough as he was.
Oh, no question.
Hmm.
I never saw his bad side at all. I knew he was hard to work with, but that was good.
Yeah, he taught us to work.
Hmm.
That was good. Yeah.
They say the greatest advantage a child can have is to be reared in honest poverty, and we had that.
You were honest poverty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had that.
Someday you'll see him again. What's the first thing you'll say?
What do you think, John? What would you say to him? Thank you?
No, I can't think of something like that.
Well,
Too far away.
his greatest contribution to me was, and I don't know why I'm getting emotional,
Yeah, how can I help you?
but he would say he had taken a class, and he was a social creditor, and he believed in a certain form of government which was close to United Order. And he felt like the social creditors were the ones that would bring United Order. And he used to quote the 105th section, and he'd say, "Were it not for the transgressions of my people, Zion might have been redeemed even now. But they're not united and not obedient." And so, with him quoting that maybe once a week, maybe more, I grew up hearing that repeatedly, and it kind of laid a foundation for me to know that we were supposed to establish Zion. Brigham Young, of course, preached that repeatedly after he had his vision at winter quarters, where he received a vision on how Enoch had used his pattern and order to sanctify his people and perfect them and get them translated.
We're not here for religion.
No, but
We're here for
that was Dad's greatest
Well,
contribution.
would you characterize him as a deeply religious person then?
Milo kept commenting on how much the lessons that Dad had taken were of great value. So Milo was impressed with what he had learned by going to this. And the religious aspects are inseparable, because Dad quoted that so frequently that it laid a foundation for me for what my life should be. And it didn't, some were affected and some weren't in our family.
So, speaking of your family, who was the dominant force? Your mother or your father?
Mom was wonderful.
Yeah. She was a quiet operator. And she even, we'd be doing something wrong, and bam, she would box our ears. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she maintained order in a quiet,
Yeah.
sometimes not so subtle way, but
Yeah.
You know how you're in church, and today's children will scream so hard it'll hurt your ears, and they'll chatter on, and reverence is totally forgotten. Well, Mom, with 14 children, was she would slap our mouth just a little bit to where we knew that we shouldn't do it. She'd never talk in church to maintain reverence, but she would let us know that we shouldn't make a noise. And so with all these children, we were quiet. We never had a child scream out like that.
We lived a block and a half from the high school in Raymond, which was the first ward. And so the high school, the auditorium, was our church. So a block, we were going to church, Mother and Dad and say 8 kids, and we're playing along the way. But when we hit the door,